Welcome to our second episode of UnMasking COVID, a podcast that focuses on sharing personal stories during this pandemic. Today, we have two special guests that will bring a unique perspective to the table and discuss with us how COVID-19 has changed their lives for the good and for the worse. Welcome, Adam and James. And would you like to quickly introduce yourselves?
My name is Adam, and I'm a fourth year finishing up the medical sciences program here at Western University.
So I'm James. I go to high school in Mississauga, and I'm in grade 12, so I'm supposed to be graduating this year.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we're super excited to have you on our podcast. So, firstly, I'd like to know what were your initial thoughts and feelings when you heard about the closures?
To be honest, I wasn't extremely surprised. I've had kind of joked about it before because I was following the news, and I had already kind of talked to teachers about it. We had discussions in class, especially with my history teacher. We kind of talked about current events a lot, just during downtime. So it wasn't completely unexpected, but at the same time, it did make me realize that it was a lot more serious than something that you would joke about in class.
Yeah, and it definitely wasn't like an on switch, off switch sort of thing. It was a whole process. I remember it started off with like clubs being restricting like large groups of 50 people, and then they brought it down to no club events at all. And then it got to the point like this. So yeah, it's definitely something you could see like a gradual coming down to the lockdown period. So
Yeah, it definitely seems like it was something that was not totally unpredictable for the both of you, and so you were kind of embracing for the impact. But even though like you kind of had an idea of what was coming, were there still some changes that you had to adapt to due to the situation, or what were some changes in your life that came to be because of COVID?
so I think there are the obvious changes that we had to take, like for protective measures, like wearing masks, gloves, making sure you're away from people at least 6 feet apart. I've been washing my hands a lot more frequently, making sure I'm not like touching my face, things like that. But besides that, there's also been like changes in the way like courses have been running, like exam formats, and like the way my thesis has been handled too. So definitely some things I've had to adapt to and change. So
In terms of the kind of high school experience, it's a lot of things that you feel are missing. Like distance learning is completely different from how you would normally learn. Um, and at the same time, like there's a lot of things that I was looking forward to that are definitely not happening, like prom and graduation, that are, they're supposed to be monumental events in life, and that's not going to happen for my entire year. And so it's a little disappointing. Um, and getting used to missing those kinds of things that are supposed to be important. Like people are saying that we're probably not going to be able to have that the same kind of freshman year experience that you all got to have. So yeah, it's just getting used to the idea that life is not going to have the same experiences that I guess I've been thinking about for however many years.
Yeah, and I think like with both of you being seniors, like Adam with your thesis project getting halted, and James, obviously grade 12 is always considered a really special year with prom and graduation and all that. I think COVID-19 has definitely hit you guys hard with the kind of changes it has presented.
I wouldn't say it. Oh, I wouldn't say it halted my thesis, but they had to just change it to like an online sort of format. But I commend them. The professors have done like a really good job of tackling it, and I think it worked out pretty well. But yeah, there's definitely been some changes we've had to adapt to and change with these online courses that are a bit different, some good, some bad, but yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and online courses definitely are like a really new thing for all of us, and especially with thesis and when grade 12, you've had to move a lot of your learning online. So how's that experience been like for the both of you?
So for me, for a few of my classes, so maybe I'll start off with my digestive physiology class. So instead of doing like in-person lectures, they just provided us with PowerPoint slides and basically gave us audio recordings for each slide with the material that we're expected to know. The exam for that changed. Instead of like a essay-based sort of short answer type exam that would normally be 3 hours long, they gave us 1 week to work on 2 3-page essays that we had to just type out and submit on OWL.
Nice.
For my fetal physiology class, the profs just completely changed like the second or the last sort of part of the course, and they just gave us recordings from previous years and just told us to learn that, and they were just going to test us on that. And our exam for that changed into a written essay-based exam that we would do in person. They changed it into like an online 3-hour exam where you had to answer basically like 5 short essays and submit it on OWL in between that 3-hour time period. My pharmacology exam, which is it's Pharm 2060, it's an online course. It, for the most part, stayed the same in terms of like learning. You just go through online modules, but the final exam changed from what would be like a 3-hour multiple choice pharmacology exam. They changed it into a 24-hour multiple choice exam with like more application-based questions. So lots of changes all around. Some exams I found like easier with these changes, like my pharmacology exam, they gave us a full day to answer some multiple choice questions. They were harder. Like for the most part, they would like present a clinical scenario, and then you had to like choose which drugs are using your knowledge of every drug. You had to know like which drugs were the best to treat that patient. But for other exams, like my fetal physiology exam, where I had to write that like 5 short essays in 3 hours, it was pretty stressful, especially when you're not used to like typing on the spot. I found that like timed writing is easier than like time typing, and I don't know why. Maybe we're just not used to it. But
Interesting.
yeah, there's been positives and negatives with the exams and like the way courses have been handled. But I think for the most part, it's been handled pretty well and fair. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like universities tend to have their act together a lot better than high schools do. Especially for me, like none of my teachers are particularly technologically inclined, and so a lot of things that you would expect to be having, like actual teaching and lectures and things like that, those just are not happening at all. I'm not sure if my teachers could record a lecture even if they wanted to. So it's a mixture of they're doing what they can and they can't do much. For example, my math teacher, she posts these little recordings of her going through problems, and it's not anymore. It's kind of like a Khan Academy style. It's not particularly special in any way, and I haven't gotten any sort of actual teaching from any of my other teachers. It's mostly just, here's a thing that you should be doing. I'm going to post on Google Classroom this little description of an assignment. Can you have it in at some point in the next little while? My English teacher doesn't even post due dates anymore. So it's just really interesting. Everything is very, it's not very definitive in terms of what we're supposed to be learning, how we're supposed to be learning it, what the due dates are, what's important, what's not. We're supposed to read a book, but like we don't have access to libraries. How are we supposed to get the book? Or does she expect us to just illegally download the book and use it? Like, I really don't know what's happening in a lot of my classes and how they're expecting us to learn. One good thing, at least, is that the Peel District School Board has a policy that our marks can't go down during distance learning. So I'm basically guaranteed to have pretty good marks as long as you make a good faith effort to complete all of your assignments.
So are like all your marks like assignment based?
Yeah.
Like you don't have any exams or anything with tests?
Well, the exams, the reason is that like you guys, you have like your like OWL, I think you said, like you have these places where you can write exams, but we don't. The high school board, like they don't invest in online exams. Like it's not something that they ever thought they'd have to do. I know my history teacher had an optional test that she put up. She was like, yeah, this is optional, don't do it if you don't want to. But it was just a Google form. So it's we really lack the infrastructure to do distance learning properly.
Yeah, and I think that's something that that school boards can definitely look into, because the pandemic is probably not going to be the last one during our lifetime. So it would be interesting for this, or a good idea for the school board to invest more on distance learning and having those platforms available. Because, like, comparing what Adam said and what you said, like, universities do definitely seem to be a lot more equipped in handling the situation.
Oh, okay. Would you say it's like a lot more self-directed, like you're learning? Yeah.
It's very self-directed. Like I've been waking up in the afternoon every day. Like there's no schedule. I don't know what day of the week it is. Like um, everything is just up to us to hold ourselves together, and I'm not
To
sure
be
if that's
honest,
a very good thing.
I think that's pretty helpful, especially if you're considering like going to university, having that like kickstart to your self-directed learning, because I think that was a big transition for me when I was going to university. In my high school, my teachers always kind of uh, spoon-fed me all the material, taught me everything I needed to know, and if I just listened to my teachers, I would do well. But university is a lot different. University, you have to really make sure you know the material on your own and find ways that work for you in terms of your studying and in terms of your learning. So maybe getting that kick, like that head start through this COVID pandemic situation might actually help you out in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could. I think that it like the whole university experience next year is going to be a balance between we all have our own experience now with independent learning, but at the same time, we're like basically missing all of second semester in terms of having solid content knowledge. So we're going to be really
Mm.
behind on that level. Um, like for example, right? The way that they teach calculus and vectors at my school, they do all the vector stuff after midterms. So I'm basically like anyone coming out of my school, going into university next year is just not going to have the same linear algebra foundations that someone from your year or from basically any other year would. So we might have that advantage there, but I think we're disadvantaged in the fact that we're missing out on having a solid understanding of the kind of knowledge that we need to the content
Mm.
to
Right,
pass
and you
first
don't
year
have those like
university.
tests to really confirm your knowledge, like no timed condition tests sort of thing, especially for like math courses.
Yeah, especially considering that like I know a lot of people like if even if we do have a test, like come on, everyone's going to be cheating in some way or another. There's no way that they can prevent that, and I think that the
That's
teachers
true.
kind of acknowledge it as well, like implicitly. Like they know it's happening and there's nothing they can do to stop it, so they don't like make a big deal of it.
We've had that too. Like
Um
for our university professors, they made us like sign honor pledges before we open final exam online. That like kind of a way to honor the pledge of not cheating and
Uh-huh.
not working with other people. But there's really no way they can control that, and I'm sure like people have cheated during our exams. I guess that's why for the most part they changed some of our exams to like essays where they gave us like a week to write it. Because those would take more work, like more you have to like look up articles to cite and things like that. But in terms of those like multiple choice exams, like I said, my pharmacology one, like I no doubt people cheated on that. Like there's no way you can control that. Yeah.
yeah, like I had my calculus like kind of midterm quote exam. It would have been a test in class, but it became a 20 question online thing. But the way that they did it, they like said they made like 10 different versions of the test and gave everyone a different one and randomized the order of the questions, and you weren't allowed to go back once you had answered a question to try and prevent
Right.
cheating and all that. But like at the same time,
Mm.
I know virtually everybody was using calculators that they would not have been allowed to use in class and stuff like that. Just because you have access to that, like even if the program might be able to check if you like change tabs or something, it's not going to be able to detect if you pick up a TI-84. So it's I if they make us do like a checkbox at the beginning that's like, oh, I promise I will not cheat, but come on, we're in high school. Like you think high schoolers care about ticking a box that says they're not going to cheat?
And I think in high school, also the consequences of cheating are much less than what you would have in university or college or any kind of post-secondary
Exactly.
education as well.
For us, they would explicitly say like if you're caught cheating, if in any way you're caught cheating, they would assign you a 0, and then that could destroy your university career
Mhm.
or future career pretty much permanently. you will always have that like stain on your grade,
Yeah.
on your transcript.